What if I told you, strength isn't enough to win? What if I told you, to win in this world, you need more than just being good or strong? To truly lead, thrive, and be free, you must master two sides of yourself. The cleverness of a fox and the ferocity of a lion. There's a turning point for everyone, a moment innocence ends. It hits when betrayal cuts deep, when kindness is seen as weak, when honesty is punished and lies win. Machiavelli knew this long ago. He saw past the smoke and mirrors, and in the struggle for power, he found one truth. A leader must be both lion and fox. But what does that mean for you? Let's dive in. The world isn't what it seems. Behind the smiles and small talk, there's a hidden current, a silent battle of ambition, jealousy, fear, and power. And here, strength alone won't cut it, nor will brains by themselves. This is what Machiavelli revealed, not to be cruel but to be clear. When he said a leader needs to be lion and fox, he wasn't making monsters, he was creating survivors. The lion is raw power, bold, proud, fearless. It doesn't need to trick anyone. This very presence commands. A lion doesn't ask for respect, commands it. It walks in and changes the whole vibe. In a world of dangers, being a lion means showing your strength early. So no one mistakes your quiet for agreement or your calm for weakness. But the lion has a blind spot. It's too proud to suspect deceit, too bold to see the hidden trap. It thinks everyone is as straightforward as its own roar. And that's its downfall, because the trap wasn't for strength. It was for ignorance. Now let's talk about the fox. The fox doesn't roar. It doesn't charge. It observes. It survives not by being feared, but by staying unnoticed. The strength is patience, blending in until the perfect moment. The fox watches people, not just their words, but their habits. It learns people lie from fear, desire, or wanting to fit in. And by understanding these lies, it learns to navigate around them. Not to trick, but to understand, plan, and avoid being trapped. But the fox has a weakness too. It can escape traps, but not confrontation. It can't roar. And when silence is seen as unimportant, the fox is often forgotten until it's too late. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He knew the lion without the fox would be outplayed, and the fox without the lion would be destroyed. But to combine them, that was the key to true control. And control isn't just for rulers. It's for anyone who chooses not to be controlled by others' chaos. Anyone who picks awareness over ignorance, purpose over impulse, and action over letting things happen. Think about your own life. How often did you try to lead with strength only to be fooled? How many times were you kind only to be used? How often did you speak your truth, thinking it was enough, only to find out truth alone doesn't win? Because life, like a ruler's court, is full of appearances. And if you ignore the masks people wear, you'll always be at the mercy of those who don't. You need to know when to be the lion. You need to know when to be the fox. There will be times someone pushes your limits, tests your patience, or tries to scare you. That's when the lion must show up, not to harm, but to say, "You won't break me." But there will also be times when a smile hides a plan, praise hides a threat, and silence has an agenda. That's when the fox must wake up, not to lie, but to listen, not to attack, but to outsmart. The lion in you is instinct. It reacts, it defends, it roars when you're disrespected. But the fox in you is wisdom. It waits, it plans, it speaks only when it's worth it. This isn't a conflict. It's completion. The lion's strength gives your wisdom impact. The fox's cleverness gives your strength direction. Yet most people are unbalanced. Some are always lions, loud, proud, in charge, but they fall for every trick, ruin every connection, and fight every losing battle. They think power is noise. They think leading is controlling, but without thinking ahead, they ruin themselves. Others are foxes, quiet, always thinking, but they get so scared of problems that they disappear from their own lives. They see everything but do nothing. They survive but never truly lead. Machiavelli encourages us to go beyond that, to become something rare. Someone who doesn't flinch under pressure and doesn't back down from deception. This isn't about being heartless. It's about being real. Because life will test you. You'll meet those who seem innocent but are predators. You'll care for those who smile while planning their escape. You'll work for bosses who reward loyalty with neglect. It's not about being cruel, it's about being real. Life throws curveballs. You'll meet fakes, wolves in disguise. People who smile while planning their escape. Bosses who thank loyalty with silence. If you don't learn to spot these things, you'll become a stepping stone for someone else's rise. But once you master being both, once you can stand confidently and make people listen like a lion, while quietly noticing every subtle shift, every hidden look, like a fox, then you start writing your own story. Not as a victim, not as a bully, but as the master of your destiny. There's strength in gentleness, but only when it's a choice. There's wisdom in power, but only when it's focused. When you combine them, you stop reacting and start shaping the world. Because the fox avoids unwinnable fights, and the lion never backs down from necessary ones. This is the art of balance. This is the psychology of survival. This is what Machiavelli taught us. Not how to be scary or manipulative, but how to stop being naive. How to navigate a world that respects power, but only when it's well presented. You don't lose yourself by learning the rules. You lose yourself by refusing to. And those who pretend the world is nicer than it is often end up controlled by those who see it clearly. You weren't born to be just a lion or just a fox. You were born with the power to be both. You were born with a voice to lead and a silence to observe. You were born with a heart that feels, and a mind that protects that heart from constant pain. Awakening this dual nature means taking back control. It means saying, I won't be ruled by fear or pride, but by awareness. And once you walk the world with both the roar and the whisper, you won't just be respected, you'll be unstoppable. Now, this leads us to a deeper thought, because knowing how to be a lion and a fox is just the start. The bigger question is, this is where the real skill comes in. Let's dive deeper. Force without the right timing is just chaos. Knowing stuff but not acting on it, that's just silence. We get needing to be both tough and clever. But how do we actually do that? How do we pull off this dual personality in a world that's rarely simple, but full of shades of gray? Honestly, life doesn't send a memo when it's time to go big or play it cool. It doesn't wait for us to get ready. So, most people mess up, acting tough when they should be watching, staying quiet when they should speak up. It's not about lacking strength or smarts. It's about missing the moment. And timing, Machiavelli knew, is the ultimate game changer in strategy. So, the first step isn't knowing who you are, but knowing when to be that person. Life constantly puts us in different shoes. One minute, you're the learner. Next, the boss. Sometimes you're the shield. Other times, the watcher. You're not one thing forever. That's a trap. If you're too attached to being a certain way, I'm always nice, I never lie, I only fight back if attacked, you become predictable. And predictable things can be managed. The world doesn't care about rigid identities. It respects flexibility. The strong oak cracks in the storm. The flexible reed bends, survives, and bounces back. That's the lion and fox combo. You don't fold under pressure, and you don't lash out blindly when threatened. You become adaptable. You become precise. In the office, think of the fox, the one who never interrupts but sees everything. They spot the hidden power plays, the quiet deals, the shifting allegiances. The fox doesn't spill its secrets. It saves them and waits. But sometimes watching isn't enough. A coworker goes too far. Your boss thinks your quiet is weakness. Then, the lion needs to roar, not with rage, but with clarity, with firm boundaries, with a voice that doesn't need permission. In relationships, the fox notices the unspoken, the doubt in a promise, the hidden motive behind a compliment, the pause before an answer. The fox senses trouble before it's obvious. It dodges illusions. But the fox can't truly love alone, because love needs openness, needs guts, and that's when the lion steps up. This awareness guards you from illusions. But the fox alone can't truly love. Love, real love, needs openness, takes guts. That's where the lion comes in, not to dominate, but to reveal itself and say, "This is me, no faking." Only with the lion's courage do we take the risks that truly matter. In friendships, family, politics, passion, life keeps asking, can you switch gears? Can you blend insight with action? The lion's heart, taking smart risks. In friendships, family, even politics. Can you stay calm when others panic and be bold when others retreat? This is where many fall short. Not from lack of strength or cunning, but from lack of good judgment. They haven't learned to pause and figure out what's needed. The fox observes without getting attached. It sees people for who they are, not who it wants them to be. It hears the subtext in words, the patterns in actions. It knows the loudest person might be the weakest, and those who praise you excessively often have an agenda. But the fox isn't scared. It's just aware. This kind of awareness, call it EQ, strategic thinking, or just wisdom, is rare. Because most people just react. They hear an insult and bite back. They feel overlooked and retaliate. They sense betrayal and crumble. But the fox doesn't react. Plans. Yet, when the danger passes, when the moment is right, the lion has to strike. Fast and with purpose. The lion isn't mean. It's just decisive. Think back. How many of your biggest regrets came from speaking too soon or waiting too long? From trusting before observing or doubting without understanding? This is the lion and fox tango. One is present, the other is patient. When Machiavelli said a prince needs both, he wasn't telling us to be fake. He was saying we need to embrace complexity. That people aren't simple, and neither are our problems. We're told to pick a side. Nice or mean, brave or calculating. But extremes get you in trouble. Success comes from shifting between roles without losing yourself. The fox isn't a liar. It just knows truth can be weaponized. And the lion isn't a thug. It knows sometimes peace needs power. Let this sink in. Power isn't about hurting others. It's about acting when needed and holding back when not. The fox teaches patience. The lion teaches strength. This is how you keep your dignity when the world craves your approval. This is how you save your energy when loudness beats depth. This is how you lead, not with fear, but with focus. Think about the people you admire. The ones who walk in and own the room without a word. The ones who listen hard, speak little, and act with clear purpose. They're not just strong. They're strategic. They've mastered the balance of caution and courage. And the only way to master it is through experience. By getting fooled, by falling for traps, by misjudging people and learning from it, by roaring too soon or staying silent too long. Failure sharpens your inner fox. Pain wakes up your inner lion. Over time, you start to feel the change. You stop over-explaining. You stop rushing to prove yourself. You observe more than you talk. You respond, not react. You don't need to control everything because you control yourself. That's when the world starts to move with you. Not because you forced it, but because you acted wisely. Because you were both strong and adaptable. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. Life doesn't demand perfection. It asks for awareness. Know yourself, know your ground, and know what the moment requires. It's about knowing yourself, your ground, and what the situation calls for. Sometimes you gotta be quiet, sometimes you gotta go all out. Sometimes you step back, sometimes you charge ahead with total confidence. Knowing when to do which, that's the real skill. That's the advantage. That's the wisdom Machiavelli offers. It's not about fear, it's about being truly free. Once you get the lion and the fox, you stop worrying about fitting in. You walk in knowing yourself and choosing who you'll be. Now, as we wrap up, a big question: what kind of power do you want? And more importantly, what impact do you want to leave? The lion rules by fear, the fox by cleverness. But only those who blend both can truly lead and inspire. Let's bring it all together. We're ending this but starting something bigger. A whole new way of seeing. Once you see both the lion and the fox inside, there's no turning back. You no longer hope for kindness or expect fairness. You now understand. It was never about fairness, it was about being adaptable. Not physically, but mentally. Who reads the room best? Who changes while others get stuck? Who can be strong and cunning at the same time? This isn't a fight. It's about waking up. Because we all have a lion and a fox. They're always there. But we were often told to shut one down, or felt ashamed of the other. You were taught that being clever was being deceitful, that being strong was being aggressive, that being subtle was weak, that being bold was being arrogant. But what if that's all wrong? What if you were punished for your fox when it saw through people, when it noticed inconsistencies, and quietly stopped trusting? What if you were punished for your lion, when you stood up for yourself and others felt threatened? What if your gut feelings weren't wrong, but just feared? True power isn't about crushing others. It's about your presence. When your fox wakes up, you stop just reacting. You start really listening to understand the situation. You pick up on emotions, tone, timing. You see the fake kindness masking, control, and the subtle manipulation disguised as love. But you don't lash out. Not yet, because the fox knows awareness is power, and timing is everything. Then, when the moment's right, the lion emerges, not to attack but to protect, lead, and set clear boundaries. The lion doesn't need permission, it needs to be true to itself. And when your fox and lion work together, you stop seeking validation. You bring your own standards, your own clarity, and your own direction everywhere you go. This is how you become your own master, not over others but over yourself. You stop begging for peace and start creating it. You stop chasing love and start recognizing it. You stop avoiding conflict and start mastering it, because both the lion and the fox have a role. One protects your boundaries, the other your mind. Machiavelli didn't promote cruelty. He just revealed how the world really works. He said what others were afraid to. That good people without a plan get crushed by manipulative ones. That innocence without smarts is beautiful but doomed. So his wisdom wasn't about being heartless. It was about being clear-headed. Clarity is rare. In a world where people just react to everything, an insult, a betrayal, a setback, clarity is powerful. It means, I don't have to react. I choose my response. I don't need to prove myself. I need to act. The fox senses, the lion acts, and when you master both, you move through life like water on stone. Smooth, silent, unstoppable. But let's be real, this isn't easy. It takes self-control that feels like holding back when you want to yell. It takes discipline that feels like distance when your heart is hurting. It takes letting go of being liked so you can finally earn respect, starting with yourself. You'll be misunderstood. People will call your caution cold. They'll call your quietness odd. They'll say you're too much or too calculating. That's the cost of waking up. Not everyone will see the dance between your lion and fox, but you will. And that's enough. Because the person who has both is formidable, not because they want to harm, but because they can't be easily hurt. They won't be drawn into pointless fights or fooled by fake smiles. They might lose a battle, but they'll never lose themselves. And that's maybe Machiavelli's greatest gift. Not a guide to power, but a reflection of inner leadership. Because in a world that always tries to mold you, to smooth your edges or toughen your heart, you have to be your own artist. You have to decide, when do I roar? When do I pull back? When do I observe? When do I act? Not out of fear or pride, but based on truth. The truth of the moment, the truth of your values, the truth of your long-term plan. Because the fox doesn't just survive. It ensures the lion picks the right fight. And the lion doesn't just win. It ensures the fox is protected. This is real strength, not overpowering others, but knowing when to act. And in those moments, showing up not as who others expect, but as a mix of instinct and intention. You start living with both gentleness and power. You become the one who can forgive but not forget. The one who plans way ahead, but still connects with people directly. The one who handles chaos calmly, not because they love conflict, but because they're no longer afraid of it. You become someone who doesn't need a crown to be a king. Because true royalty, as Machiavelli knew, isn't about your title. It's about your approach, to seeing what others miss, is having the courage to feel, and the discipline not to let feelings control you. It's experiencing hardship, betrayal, and manipulation, and choosing to master it, not repeat it. You start moving through the world differently, not as victim or aggressor, but as something much rarer, a stable presence and an unexploitable force. So remember this, you were never meant to be simple. You were never meant to be just strong or just smart. You were meant to be both. You were meant to hold opposing ideas without breaking, to be kind without being weak, and strategic without being ruthless. Machiavelli wasn't writing for villains. He wrote for survivors, leaders, and those who refused to live by others' illusions. He wrote for you. And now, the only question is, will you embrace your inner lion and fox, or let the world choose your mask? Because if you don't master both,